So first of all, thank you for coming. We're going to do a talk on power of Sangat. And there's a couple of things that I want to cover, but first of all I just want to say that I am sharing what I know. So if anyone wants to sort of chip in and or discuss or question as we go, then feel free to do so. You probably know more than I do, so please do share whatever you want to share as we go. So we are going to cover a couple of topics today in the time we have, which is first we're going to look at what's the meaning of Sangat, and what are the four types of Sangat. So there's four types. We're looking at what the qualities required to have Sat Sangat as well, and we'll do a group exercise depending on time, and then go back into sort of listening mode, where we look at sort of Sakya on I as in Home and Sat Sangat. And we'll go on to the value of Satsangat as well, and how we can get Satsangat. First of all, I just wanted to share something which isn't sort of Gurmukhi related. It's sort of a worldly sort of just study that I came across when I was doing a bit of research. And there was very recently, there's a neuroscientist of the name of Moran Cerf. I think I pronounced it right. And he's been looking at decision making in the US for about 10 years, and he released a study recently where he looked at what drives happiness in people, and what he concluded from it was it has nothing to do with experiences or the material goods or the personal philosophy that we all have. And what he was saying was that actually happiness is all about who we decide to spend time with. So it's the friends we choose. And he said there's two things that led, sort of premises that led him to believe this. First, he said that the decision making is tiring. So he's saying that when we get up in the morning, we have to choose what to wear, what to eat, and throughout the day. And if you think about it in our own lives, we have a lot of things, a lot of decisions we've got to make about our own, just daily, that is actually quite tiring. If I think about what I need to do, I need to get home, what do I make to eat, what I'm going to sort out for tomorrow. And he's saying decision making is tiring. That's what he himself concluded that he was never going to choose, when he goes to a restaurant, he's never going to choose what to eat. He's going to always pick the second thing on the menu. So that's how he approached decision making. And he said the second premise was that humans falsely believe that they have full control of their happiness. That they have, the choices they are going to make have some impact over their happiness. And he said that's not true as well. So he used both of those premises, and this worldly study I just want to open it up all with, also concluded that happiness is all to do with the people that we associate ourselves with, which I thought was quite interesting in relation to what we're going to sort of cover today, which is all about Sangat. So if I go on to Sangat, so the meaning of Sangat. So Sangat can be split into two words, so Sang and Gat. Sang means gathering of people, so one or more people gathering together, and Gat means maybe it means liberation. It's just there's many interpretations of a word, so one of those is liberation. So Sangat together is the gathering of people with the aim of obtaining liberation. So oneness with God, with Vaheguru. There's four types of Sangat. One is Sangat, so Sangat on its own. The other is Sad Sangat, then it's Khus Sangat, and the fourth is Sat Sangat. So Sat Sangat, the first one in here, it's pretty simple. It's when more than one person meets together. So two or more. And the key with that Sangat is that your gun or your avgun, so your good qualities or your bad qualities, they aren't impacted at all by the people that you're associated with or that you're meeting. That's what we call Sangat. And Gurbani then goes and differentiates Sad Sangat. Sad Sangat is when you associate yourselves with Sads. So what are Sads? Sads are, Barney describes it as Sad is when that individual has completely controlled their five thieves. So, completely got rid of those from themselves, and that's how we describe Sad. And they say Manu Sadliya, that's a Sad. So if you associate yourself with those kind of individuals, then you are in Sad Sangat. And there was some Gursikhs that went to Bhai Gurdas Ji and asked, how does one become a Sad? And Bhai Sahib said, it's when you've got shabad in your hirda. So you've developed your spirituality, so much so that your naam is in your hirda now. And those that came to camp, hopefully, I think everyone here were there. Then if you went to the naam talk, we talked about the different stages of naam avastha, and we talked about a naam in your hirda. So these Gursikhs went on and questioned Bhai Gurdas Ji and said, you know, where do we find these sads? And Bhai Sahib said, these sads are countless. In other dharms, there'll be one in every couple of 100,000, but in Sikhi, you'll find countless. We can't count how many sads there are. And even when I read this as well, I was thinking, that sounds opposite of what I thought, which is that sants. I thought sants are, you know, there's only few, you know, in our in the existence. And Bhai Sahib went on and said, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj planted seeds in the world, and those are the ones that cultivate these sads. And they say these seeds are dharmsal, so these are the gurdwara that Maharaj started. So that's where we develop sads, that's where we meet sads. And then we say sad sangat, when you come into the gurdwara and you meet the sads. Then there's a third type of sangat. So we talked about some good, potentially one which has no impact, which is the sangat. So no, good nor bad on you. And then it's a sad sangat, which is associating yourself with sads. And if you're associating yourself with sads, if you're associating yourself with them and your qualities, your good qualities are increasing, so like you're doing more naam japana, you're doing more seva, then you can kind of think, I'm in the good company, that's a good thing. So sad sangat is a good thing. Then there's kus sangat. And Maharaj describes those when your gun will decrease. Associating with these individuals, your bad qualities will increase and your good qualities will decrease. So Bhai Bhagat Kabir Ji said that when there's a person that's covered with soot, like a lot of bad qualities, the likelihood that you will get a dag, a mark from that person is pretty high. So you might not be covered with soot, but the chances are you'll be marked by it. So that when people say, well, I'm going to hang around with people that maybe don't have the qualities that I believe in, so maybe you've got friends that, you know, perhaps drink or drugs or whatever, and you think, well, I don't do that, you know, so I'm all right, that's not going to impact me on myself. I'm going to be, what Maharaj is saying is through Gurbani is that actually you will get impacted. And there's a Sakhi of Bhagat Kabir Ji so they went and sat near a banana tree and they started doing bhakti. And when they had their eyes open at the beginning, they looked at, and in front of them was a banana tree, and they could see a banana on the tree. And there was also a thorn bush nearby, and the wind was blowing and the leaves were also blowing as well. And Bhagat Kabir Ji was thinking, oh, how great is this? It's hot weather and the thorn bush is blowing, hava to cool the banana down. And they went into bhakti, went into a state of sort of meditation, and some time after they opened their eyes again. And they opened their eyes, and that same banana was in pieces on the floor. And thinking back to what Bhagat Kabir thought, they thought this is a really good thing. And then they realized that this thorn bush has just tore this banana apart into pieces. And what Bhagat Kabir Ji and Maharaj is saying here is that what can look good, so the thorn bush looked like it was giving, some shad, some hava to that banana. What it actually did, spent enough time with it, it just tore it into pieces. It was on the floor. So that's in Gurbani. That's a Sakhi from Bhagat Kabir Ji's time. That's Kus Sangat. And Kus Sangat is also about how we spend our time. So it's not always about just how we associate with different individuals as well. It's about how what we watch on TV, what we read. It's all that time spent, all that impact. I was thinking about what I do. So I have on these phones you can get the news a lot, right? They just you have a news wire or whatever, and amount of stuff that just pops up because it's there. and you end up reading it, but you just think, this is, well, how am I spending my time? Because actually it's just, A, it's distracting, and B, it's just putting the thoughts into my mind that maybe I don't want to associate myself with, and so forth. So we've got to, you know, in our own lives, we need to think about this sort of Sangat and the impact it will have on us. Sat Sangat. Sat Sangat is Sangat that is true Sangat. So Sat means true, and this is about sitting in the Sad Sangat and doing vichar of Gurbani. So Sads is associating yourself with Sads, coming into the Gurdwara, but then if you're doing, like you're reciting Naam, or you're singing Kirtan, or contemplation, or any vichar, katha, anything that we're doing that you're contemplating on Vaheguru, that's what we call Sat Sangat. So there's the 4 types of Sangat. So in Gurbani, in Bhai Gurdasa Diwara, they explain the qualities that you need to have Sat Sangat. So it's not just about turning up at the Gurdwara, for example. You need to have qualities to bring with you to do Sat Sangat. So there's 5 types, 5 qualities I should say. And the first is Shraddha, so you need to have belief. And now when you come into Guru's Gar, you've got to have a level of Shraddha to that. What Maharaj tells us is a true, and you know, to sort of follow it. So it's a belief. The first quality is Shraddha. And there's a lot of people in this world, even though those that come to the Guru Gar, that don't have Shraddha. So even like Gathavajaks, you will have some Gathavajaks that will tell you something which is not quite with what Barney is telling us, explaining it wrong. So we would need to be alert, need to be mindful of, you know, that exists in the Guru Gar as well. So have Shraddha. So Bhavana is having prem. So that's without it, you're not going to have a pull to go into the Guru Gar. So you need that prem, that Bhavana, to go into the Sad Sangat. So Nirmanta is getting rid of your ego. So when you take off your shoes downstairs, leave your ego where you left your shoes. That's what is the third quality. And then Savdhan. Savdhan is basically coming in to, like for example, you've come into this lecture hall. We're going to do a talk for about an hour, and it's going to be hard to listen to me talk for that long. We're going to break it up. But so what Maharaj is saying here, Savdhan, is to come here, which is a great thing, but then also to focus. And then when you're going downstairs and you need to listen to Gurbani, is to focus, is not to be lethargic and you know, sort of fall asleep and so on. So, and there's a sort of an example. It's not really a Sakhi, but it's an example of when Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji did Gatha, and one of the members fell asleep, and they gave it's recorded, and it was part of the Gatha, and you can listen to it. And they said, look, there's no point. This Sangat member fell asleep, and they goes, there's no point in coming into Sangat and not having Savdhan, not having that focus and you know, attention for that time. And they said that there's no point in me doing Gatha. They went as far as saying there's no point in me doing Gatha. I might as well be doing it to myself if no one's going to listen. So that is important. And sometimes we think, oh, it's it's good that we come, and that is good, but we need to go a bit further and actually take something away from what's being said as well. And Ekargata is basically taking this a bit further and saying, coming in and completely attuning your mind to what's being said. So there's nothing that can pierce it at all. So it's complete focus of your mind and body on what's on the Gurbani that you're listening to. So we have a group exercise, and I wonder if it's a bit too early to do the group exercise. Maybe we'll leave it for a bit later. Yeah. So we'll go on to the group exercise in a short while. So I and Satsangat. So there's a Pankti in Sri Rera Sahib which goes and explains and talks about I, Home, and Satsangat and the importance. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this. There's going to be 2 Sakya because the Pankti here, Gahere man chitve udam ja ahar jio per जियो पर्या सैल पत्थर में जंत उपाय ताका रिजिक आगे कर तरया मेरे माधव जी सत्संगत मिले सो तरया. So Maharaj, in this Pankti, there's 2 two sakyas that cover it, and the first part and the second part relate to, first part relates to Bhai Gurdas Ji, and the second to Bhagat, Sant Madhav Ji. The first part relates to Home, so it's talking about how we get Home. So Bhai Gurdas Ji were, you know, such a learned Gursikh and such of a high spiritual state, and even they came into Home. Now, a lot of in Gurbani and the Sakya that we hear about, a lot of them are of very spiritual people, and it's important to remember that these Sakya are given about these individuals so that we can learn from them. And it seems obvious, but these individuals were really spiritual, so it's no like dag on them. It's so that we can, those things happened, as Maharaj's kid, that we learn from those, those events. So at the time of Bhai Gurdas Ji, Guru Ram Das Ji had done it was a Jyoti Jyot, and they had given the Gurgaddi to their youngest son, Arjan, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. So they were given the Gurgaddi. And Bhai Gurdas Ji heard about the news, and he was feeling very sort of regretful and sad that he wasn't present at this Jyoti Jyot. So he and his family and some Sangat went on foot to Govindwal, so made their way over there so they could go and be with their sister Bibi Iqwinder Kaur, who was married to Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. So they took the children and the Sangat with them, went on foot, and the weather turned quite cold, and they came to a river, and they could either stay and go through the cold and potentially suffer quite a bit because they had young children with them, or they could try and continue, but it was going to be pretty hard because they had to cross this river, and the guy with the boat was no longer there. So they were all sort of sitting there thinking, what should we do? And then Bhai Gurdas Ji remembered that Vaheguru Naam Jahaj hai. So what he thought was, I'm gonna do Naam Simran. I've got Bharosa, I'm gonna do Naam Simran, and everyone's gonna cross the river. So what he told the Sangat to do was to jap Naam, that he would walk in front and they would walk behind. And just like that, Vaheguru, 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 they crossed that river with the focus of the Naam Simran happening. And in the Katha by Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh Ji Bindrawale, they said that no water reached above the knees. So when they were crossing, all the adults Sangat, they had water up to their ankles, and all the children no more than above the knees. So they all walked across. And through doing that, Bhai Gurdas Ji, in Sukham Sarup, so not in an obvious way, there came about Home. He was thinking, not thinking, but in Sukham Sarup, that I did this, I got Sangat across. So even in Gursikhs, with as much avastha as that, they can have it. So people like me, we're going to have it all the time. If I do something like that, I'm going to think I did it. So anyways, they go on to go on their journey, and Bhai Sahib got to and with the family and the Sangat to Bodli Sahib. They did a Shnan, had Langar, and they then arrived at Govindwal Sahib, and there they met with they had this Langar, and then Bhai Gurdas Ji had an itcha to go and see Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj, because Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj was their nephew, and they thought is my nephew, my youngest nephew, going to be able to hold this responsibility of being Guru? So he had an itcha to go and see Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. And when he got up from the langar that they were eating, on the way there was two children, very young children, playing, sort of under 10, and they were away playing, and then one of the children said to the other, there's only two of them, said, who's going to win? And the other child said, no one's going to win. And he said, well, there's only two of us playing, so one of us is going to win, who's going to win? And the child said, none of us are going to win, and the one that's going to win is the one that has the kirpa of Guru Amar Das Ji Sahib. And when Bhai Sahib heard this, he immediately, no shame or anything, just fell at the feet of the child and said, "Tan, tan ho." And what Bhai Sahib realized at that point in time was, look at me. I'm thinking I did this. I crossed all those Sangat across the river. And he realized that he was feeling very regretful of how he was feeling about that whole situation. So then, of that realization, Bhai Sahib got up and went on his journey towards Amritsar, where Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj was. And when they arrived, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj welcomed them like their Mamma Ji would. On the worldly level, they were the Mamma Ji, so they embraced them like that as well. And when Maharaj saw Bhai Gurdas Ji, they said, "Look at you, well done. You crossed everyone over the river." And Bhai Gurdas Ji, so Antarjami, they already knew, Hana. So Bhai Gurdas Ji felt so shameless and said, "Maharaj, please stop." And then Maharaj went on and said, "Look, you even fell at the feet of a child as well. And look at the Nimrata." And Bhai Gurdas Ji said further, "Please stop, Maharaj. I've recognized what, the Horme that I created in me. Please stop." So, anyways, the Pangat started and the Langar. So Maharaj said, "Come on, sit down, have, you've traveled a long way, sit down and have prashadam." Now in the Langar, on that day, the prashada was misya rotiyam, no dal, no sabji. And everyone sat down, Maharaj sat down as well, and they all started having langar. And in Bhai Gurdas Ji's mind, he was thinking, what's happened to the langar? What's the state of things now? Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj has become Guru, and the langar, we used to have kheer, we used to have kyo. What's happened to all of that? And Maharaj Antarjami, they know this already. And they said to Bhai Gurdas Ji, said, what's the matter? I'm having the same rutti as yourself, same langar, what's the issue here? And Bhai Gurdas Ji, said, look, Maharaj, we used to have gyo, we used to have kheer, what happened? And Guruji said, look, go and speak to your sister, Bibi Iqwinder Kaur, and they were in the Langar hall. Go and find them, go and speak to them. They didn't say anything further beyond that. So Bhai Gurdas Ji went and found their sister in the Langar who was doing seva. And immediately when they met, there was a lot of, they were feeling very upset because it was very, very raw still that Maharaj Guru Ramdas Ji left, in the sort of Jyoti Jyot left this world. So they sort of embraced and a lot of respect between the brother and sister. And Bhai Gurdas Ji, after a couple of sort of conversation and so on, Bhai Gurdas Ji goes to Bibi Iqwinder Ji, what's happened to the langar? Now we're having misya rotiya. What's the problem here? And then Bibi Iqwinder Ji said, look, the elder two sons. So she has three sons. Guru Arjan Dev Ji being the youngest. Baba Priti Chand and Baba Mahandev, they won't let any of the money come to the langar hall, and we spend what we have. Because what those two older brothers wanted, they wanted the guruship. They were feeling bitter about it, and they were claiming that they were the guru. And some sangat would go to them, so they all had their own followers, and they would give the beda to them, and they wouldn't even come to the langar hall at all. Because that's what's happening. They're spending all the money on Harmandir Sahib and making that really, beautiful with all they can with the beda, and we haven't got anything for langar. So Bhai Gurdas Ji thought to himself, I've got to do something about this. He's feeling something's gone wrong here. So what he does is takes him and his sangat to a place where we now have Bibli Sahib. And what he would do is people that would come and meet Guru Arjan Dev Ji would come and stay there first. They would come there, have langar, and then they'll go on to see Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj to have their darshan. But what he did was he got them to give the peta. He would say, don't give the peta he didn't say don't give the peta to the eldest two sons. He said, give the peta to the Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. There's only one Guru, and that's Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. So he said, he said, if you want to give peta and you want it to be Pravan, I'll go with you and give that peta straight there. 'Cause what Bhai Gurdas Ji wanted was making sure it went to the right place. You know, it's in the langar and goes back to the Sangat. So the other two sons found out. They became even more upset. They're thinking, my Mamaji's, you know, now taking sides. You know, they're already upset that they didn't get the Guruship, and now the Mamaji's involved, and the, you know, the sort of situation gets worse. And then Maharaj is Antarjami anyways, but they, you know, to explain it to us, they found out, and they called Bhai Gurdas Ji to where they were, and they said, look what's going on. You know, who asked you to do this? Normally, when you do something like this, you think it's a good thing, and you might get a sarupa for it. You know, get sort of blessings that you've done such a good thing. But they got told off. Bhai Gurdas Ji said, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj said, what are you doing? Who said to do this? And it's at that point they gave this bhajan, where there's two panktis of Sri Rara Sahib Ji, and they said, Kahe re man chitve udam ja ahar jio parya sel pathar mein jant apai taka rijik age kar tarya. And what they're saying there is, where do you think all this comes from? You know, all the food and the langar, where do you think it comes from? It's not because you've done it, it's Paramatma. At the same time, when they're giving this, you know, teaching to Bhai Gurdas Ji, there's Sangat from Kashmir that arrive in the sort of sanctuary of Maharaj, and immediately Maharaj turns to them to welcome them in, while Maharaj was speaking to Bhai Gurdas Ji. And then the second pankti is the learning we're going to get from this Sakhi. So this Sakhi sort of this pankti is put together as covering both things, the Home and the Satsangat. So this Sangat from Kashmir arrived, and it was by Madhu Das Ji, and they were Mahapurush, great Mahapurush in our Itihas. And they arrived with the Raja of Kashmir and their family, and there's a Najwan there, and they all arrived in Maharaj's Hajuri. And they asked, they welcomed Iskar, and Bhai Madhu Das Ji said, Maharaj, thank you so much. We've come here to thank you. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj said, you know, again, Antarjami, they knew this anyways, but they said, what do you mean? Thank me for what? And what Bhai Madhu Das Ji and the Sangat did was sat down, and Bhai Madhu Das Ji started explaining what happened. And he said, back in Kashmir, I was given a hukum, you know, I had a lot of kirpa from you, Maharaj. I was given a hukum to do katha in Dharamsal, in our local Dharamsal, so I did. And when I was doing katha, I was being blessed so much that I would lose all sort of consciousness around, you know, what was happening around me. I would just be so absorbed in your charan, I wouldn't know what time it was, you know, who was sitting and listening to the katha. I was in such a nand. And what would happen is the Sangat would start saying to me, look, you need to start finishing on time, because, you know, we're overrunning all the time. And then Bhai Madhu Das Ji was like, you know, what's the problem? You know, you sound like it's a sort of an issue. You know, sometimes we overrun, it's okay. And the Sangat said, well, there's a curfew on locally, and if we get caught out late at night, we'll get punished. So you need to, you need to finish on time. So Bhai Madhu Das Ji said, okay, that's fine. But another Najwan was sitting also in the Sangat. He said, look, you know, but let's have another rule as well. Everyone has to sit until the Gatha is finished, Ardas has happened, and all the Prashad has been Pratad. So they did, and again, Bhai Madhu Das Ji was like, okay, that's fine, you know, but that's just one person saying it. So anyways, there was a time passed, and they started doing Gatha again, and it was one evening, and Bhai Madhu Das Ji went into so much Anand again and just completely lost all track of time. And it slowly, the sort of time they said everything needs to be finished by had passed. And all the Sangat started getting up, you know, slowly one by one, and before you know it, the room's empty, you know, the Darbar side. But except for that Najwan that said, we're not going to leave until all the Gatha is finished, Ardas is done, and Prashad is Pratad. And Bhai Madhu Das Ji comes out finishes their Gatha and looks around, and he just sees that Najwan sitting down. And he says, why are you still here? You know, time has passed, it's really late. And the Naujawan said, well, look, you know, I've got to stay till it's finished. And Bhai Madhav Ji, you know, on one hand was really pleased, but the other is a bit worried now as well, because he's got to go through the dark, and he'll probably get caught. So, they had a curfew because there was robberies happening, and the Raja there said, well, look, you know, if you're going to be out at night, you're going to be treated as a thief, and you're going to be punished for it as well. So Bhai Madhav Ji said, look, may Waheguru keep you well, and you reach home, and you know, have a safe journey and be on your way, basically. And as soon as he left the Dharamsal, he was caught by the police, the guards that were, you know, sort of doing the curfew. And they caught him and they took him straight to the Raja. And the Raja said, look, what are you doing outside at this time of night? And he said, look, I just finished listening to Katha. I was on my way home and your police stopped me. And the Raja said, I don't believe you. He goes, you know, thieves lie. I don't believe you, you're a thief. So he said, have you got any family? Have you got any, you know, have you got mother or father? Have you got a wife or children? He said, I've got all of those. He goes, well, come on, bring them here. And then that family was summoned to the Raja, and Naujawan was there as well. And the Raja says to him, to the parents, says, do you know this person? They go, yeah, that's our son. They go, well, he's been out at night, he's been caught as a thief. And the parents go, well, you know, we don't know where he is half the time. He doesn't tell us where he goes. And the Naujawan is sitting there, and he's thinking, hello, you know, this is my parents, what's going on here? So he's thinking, you know, doesn't quite understand what's going on. And then his wife's called forward, and she says, and Raja said, is he your husband? And she goes, yeah. But he's got no, you know, he's not got no good qualities. He never brings any income in. He's hardly at home. I don't know where he is. You know, it's no use to me. As far as I'm concerned, the in-laws look after me, and we're as good as divorced anyways. So this Naujawan is, you know, further, like, not confused, but he's thinking, come on, you know, where's my backup here? And then they asked the children as well. The children come forward and they said, look, his father only name. We have a mother who acts like a father. He hasn't brought any food on the table, and he isn't given any toys or anything. So, so the Raja's thinking, you know, this guy isn't being backed up by anyone, not even his own family. So the Raja's a bit, the Naujawan's a bit stuck. And he's like, he's got this bad character painted of him. It's not looking good for him. So the Raja says, look, do you know anyone else then that's going to, you know, be your sort of character witness, as it were? And the Raja said, yeah, the Naujawan says, yeah, I do. I have Bhai Madhav Ji, go and call him. So the police, the guards, they go around to Bhai Madhav Ji. And they said that a Sangat of yours has, you know, a person that you know has been caught. You've been summoned to the Raja to appear and explain how you know him. So Bhai Madhav Ji is thinking that Sangat member's been caught. So he goes over, and they're all sort of standing together. And the Raja says to him, so do you know this, what relationship do you have with this this Naujawan? And Bhai Madhav Ji says, well, you've asked the wrong question. What relationship don't I have with this person? He is my sevak. He is my satsangi. He's dearer to me than a son would be. I don't have any sons, but he would be dearer to me. So he's saying he's a good soul. You know, what you're about to do, Raja, punishing him is a sin. It's a pap. You're not doing the right thing here. And the Raja said, look, just reminded him, look, he got caught in the middle of the night. He's going to be punished for it. Is there anything else you want to say? He goes, look, if you want to punish him, punish me. You know, I'm here. You can take me. So the Raja said, no, that's not going to work. So he starts, and the way they used to punish, the Raja used to punish in Kashmir at that time, was what they would do is take wood and sort of sharpen one, sort of pole, and sharpen one end of it so it's sharp. And what they would do is they would put the the body, so the individual, on their sort of stomach. And what will happen is if you it will slowly pierce until it goes through, and that individual would eventually die. And what they did was they got the pole ready, the sui, and they picked up this Najwan and put him on it. But at the same time, Bhai Madhadas ji put their complete attention and did a das to Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj and said, please Maharaj, you've saved so many people, this is time to save him now, he's a good person. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj answered the ardas straight away. And what happened is, when the Najwan was being put on and his body touched the sui, immediately all green shoots of branches came out of that log and from the floor and supported the Najwan up. And it was like a miracle. I don't know if you can imagine if you saw that. And the Raja was so shocked, and he felt so bad as well, because he realised this is something spiritual here, so that he's done something wrong. So Raja just fell at Bhai Madhadas ji's feet and said, please forgive me. And Bhai Madhadas ji said, look, I'm not anyone to forgive you. Go to the one that does forgive, and that's Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. I can't forgive you, but I'll take you. But I'll take you only if you will accept Sikhi. You're going to become a guru of the Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And to be honest, after all of that, they were like, the Raja was like, definitely, no doubt. And that's when Bhai Madhadas ji took the Sangat, in the form of Sangat, took the Kashmir Sangat and the Raja, his family, and the Najwan all the way to Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and that's when they blessed him. And that's when that bhakti, that last bhakti, part of this bhakti comes in, where we're learning about the value of Satsangat. So what this Najwan did was he spent all his time with good people, very good, highly spiritual Satsangat, Sati. And through having that association, he was saved, because he might not have been able to do the ardas himself, but this Mahapurush, Bhai Madhadas ji, did the ardas for him. So, it's in Sikhi, it is really important to have satsangats, to be associated, to have those good qualities rub off on us as well. So we're going to now do a group exercise, just as a break. And I'm going to share a Sakhi, and what I would like you to do is reflect on that Sakhi in groups. So the Sakhi is from the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And there's a Gurmukh who is quite a highly spiritual Gurmukh. And what that person does is serve holy people, sants, sads, as they pass through their sort of, lakka, their area. And every time they would serve these individuals, this Gurmukh would ask them, what is the benefit of serving sants and sadhus? And those individuals would reply, you'll get happiness out of it, you'll get riches out of it, you'll live a long life, you get children, all of those things. And this Gurmukh wasn't really convinced through all of that. So, that questions keep sort of in his mind. And one day he met Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. So they came passing, and he asked the same question to Maharaj. And Maharaj said, didn't answer the question, and they said, go on, sit in this area, identified an area in the jungle, and do bhakti, do Nam Simran, and do that every day. And he thought, well, you haven't answered my question, but I'll do it. And they had a bit of shraddha, so this person went and did that. And on the first day, he did Vaheguru Simran with complete focus and attention, Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. And he noticed there was a pair of crows sitting on the tree in front of him. And while he was sitting there, while he was doing the Vaheguru Simran, he saw them transform into white cranes. I know these are birds, white cranes. And he got really amazed. He's thinking, what's happening here? I know that these crows have changed into cranes. So he went away and then went to Maharaj and told them what had happened. And Maharaj said, go enough, do the same thing again. Go there and do Vaheguru Simran. And this Gurmukh went and did Vaheguru Simran again. And then he noticed that those crows on the tree, where they were sitting, that turned into cranes, had now turned into white swans. And this person, this Gurmukh, is even more amazed. He's thinking, what's happening? And confused as well. And he continues on, and then Maharaj says, again, same thing happens, go back to Maharaj, and the Maharaj says, go back again, keep doing what you're doing. And the next day, he sees these swans change into humans when they're doing Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. And these two humans come and sit next to this Gurmukh. And this Gurmukh says to the two individuals, these two humans that come and sit next to him, says, what's happened? Because they're now humans, they can talk, innit? And the pair explained that they were born as crows, but upon meeting this Gurmukh, this Gursikh of this Avastha, they became cranes, they became swans, and then they eventually became humans. They said upon meeting this sadhu, within the course of a couple of days, they were blessed with what would have taken many, many, many lifetimes. So that's the power of Sangat, Sat Sangat. So the group exercise, if we can, is if we can reflect on that Sakhi, and now imagine you as individuals, we as individuals, were strolling down the road, let's say, the jungle, and we were in sort of a state of spiritual reflection, and we saw a pair of crows, and we remember this Sakhi, and imagine you saw these two crows come down and they instantly flew away, but they soon returned, but still as crows, and you're thinking, why haven't they changed into white cranes? So if you can just reflect on that, then what we'll do is when we sort of finish 15 minutes, we'll come back together as a group and just discuss what everyone sort of thought about it. Yep. So maybe you just split into, I don't know, 4 groups of 6, 7, 8 people. Vaheguru Khalsa, Vaheguru Fateh. Do we still need to keep this on? Just keep this on. Take it.
If you saw 2 crows and they flew away from you, and then they just came back and they stayed and you were saying there's still 2 crows, what lesson have you learned from that? What do you think, Fadi?
Yeah, I think it's almost like if you sort of like have a modern day kind of analogy of it, it's almost like you know, you have the films where you have like the Karate Kid, like kind of like following his master or whatever it is, that like, you know, they have kind of like have that relationship together. So like obviously not only is he learning from him, he's serving him as well. So he, like so he kind of like gets blessed, and then also kind of like tries with the aim to like become like him through the seva. That's what we're here to like to
exactly.
Like, you know, like the sun, like the saints who've got so much knowledge, and we want to get to their level, and then obviously one day then somebody kind of like looks up to us to sort of like you know, to get that gyan or whatever, and that's probably my kind of like spin on it. And I think if I go down like the apprenticeship master route, probably a bit It's probably a bit too vague probably for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's more about following what the Guru says, isn't it?
But the other actually think of it, like, you know, back in the day, like, obviously, like, in the youth days, they used to clean the professional
Serving. It's about serving, yeah. I get where he's at.
Say the question one more time.
What's the question? So if you see two crows in the street, huh? You walk after hearing the Saki, where the Sant, he changed the crow into a crane, white crane, then into a swan, then into humans, huh? Because he changed them into different genders. So you see two crows, you're walking down the street, you see two crows, and they just fly away from you. Then they come back and there's still two crows. So what do you learn from that? We need to do more of the earth, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that we're not following Guru's teachings. Because he followed Guru's teachings, because he served the Guru.
That's actually true.
And Maharaj kept saying, go back. Maharaj is telling us, go to satsang.
That's actually true, because the sun said, like, when animals like come by them, they'll fall asleep.
Oh, it's true, I've seen that as well. I know Mahapurush that had dogs and stuff.
That's crazy.
So the Sachkhand, of course. All the animals are in around Sachkhand. All of them everywhere.
Did you go bus?
In India,
It's good, isn't it?
when we were with Baiji in India, whenever we used to go like to towns or whenever they used to do katha, there was always used to be dogs following them.
Yeah.
When Amadi got shook and everything, like they were always around Baiji's banner. If anyone tried to get close, the dog would stop barking.
Yeah. Not even that, when you go to Hazur Sahib, do you know when they go and get the gargle? You always see there's two dogs that always follow it. They sit there, wait for it, and then they walk all the way back. Yeah. Every morning, every hour. I went and I saw them. Apparently those are something as well. That's another story.
I'm not sure how to say.
I don't know, because you don't know what to answer. It's more about doing what the Guru tells you to do. That's what I've taken from it. So if the Guru told us to go look at crows, then we can change them to humans as well. I think so. Oh, you guys are recording? Any more Vijay?
Any more Sakya?
About Baiji?
Just too many about Baiji.
Go on, share some. Yeah, just one.
About Baiji.
On your camera.
So I don't want to share. There's some stuff that you can't share. Okay.
Oh, I agree.
But you can share in Sangat.
Why should I come?
It's camera, Jesus.
You can't take anything else from that. You can just listen to the song.
Yeah, exactly. That, I mean,
It's like an inspiration, it motivates you.
it actually puts you down, It keeps you in nimrata. Because even though we don't have the power to change them into crows or whatever, swans, we still, it keeps you in nimrata. Maharaj is trying to say, do more.
We've got so much more to do.
Yeah.
And we think we've got everything. So
Yeah, exactly. Because the camera's facing this way, I don't want to turn around. Very good.
Half for some animals and one dish.
So the thing is, you want to pass it. Yeah, it does come after the top.
I know horses is that's the next dream after like a human.
Is it? How do you know that?
Because like Gura, and when they're similar, if you do this, you get a support.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that.
That's what Guru's like doing.
They're not going to ride dogs now. Yeah, I kept asking questions. I can't remember. I kept, halfway. You're halfway through it.
Wait, where's behind you? Is it talking it?
What's behind you?
Is this a...
He's on camera. He's on camera. That's not looking back.
That's the wrong person.
The worst thing is facing the screen as well. So it's worse. I think about something.
No, it's alright. Everybody can do something and then you get talking.
So there's good material. And you got told by and you like, so you have 3 days each time. So these animals are approaching to like and then so on. And the third day, like,
Turn it to human.
yeah, it turns out that crow, it turns to a swan, and then it turns to human. And then the humans were actually told like, what happened is, so that it's only because of you, because I think it's me, that's first second, if you get that sucked, how you do imagine as you approach the crows, imagine if you was outside you saw the 2 crows and the 2 guys.
Be honest.
When they came back and they're still crows, what do you think? What does that mean?
So basically, they went. So it's not basically. That's very complicated actually. So
It's actually very simple.
okay, I'm gonna read that now.
Why you can't read?
Okay, just wait. So I heard that. So basically, there was 2 crows. Yeah. Yeah.
But only because Maharaj did Bachan did Hukam.
Did he have Sangat? That's why they came back as crows.
No.
And your crows already there. Yeah. The crows became 2 minutes. I'm tired. Okay. I just got to crows.
Whale.
I came from Wales in the morning, I had to go work.
Animal train. And he went back to one. They came up one.
It is from us. We're on camera.
Imagine if you just walked around like and go through roads. This is how you do it. Went away. There's how many people. They went to left us close. They came back.
No. Mapuche was yeah, and the kids came back. Not in the way that like.
Imagine it, you went today. Okay.
So like you as a kid, so that means that like you're not giving up to this.
They didn't get you just want to When you start uni, are you going to uni now? Second year either?
Supposed to be, yeah. Please stop talking out loud.
Imagine the people that listening.
I know it's getting a bit emotional.
You want to take the mic?
I suppose you're not still doing jobs, man. You're on like, how many are you on? 10 grand now? 10 grand?
Share Saki, even saying.
You want to share us the stuff?
I don't have enough knowledge.
Inspire the people that are listening.
Aspired to be inspired.
So what's your name?
Secret aspire.
Canada Wales.
Yeah.
Why?
Separates me from the other lights.
Because you're so...
Because there's other Jeepers in the group.
He said this is what happens to me. He said this is why I'm
That's another Saki for another day.
That's the mic, bro. Can you share us?
Do you guys want to tell a Saki? Here's the mic. Which one? Share the Gyan.
Which Gyan? Okay, I might be the right one. That's it too.
The pressure's on now.
Which Gyan is that?
Tell a Saki about some crows.
For this you mean?
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, no. Okay, come on, let's do it together then.
Come on, I've got this.
Go on, it's fine, it'll be fine. Go on.
Tell a Saki about the crows.
Oh, about what we've thought about the story, or?
Look, I just come here, okay? I've travelled many miles.
Okay.
Wales Sangat has arrived. I've been filled in about the crows.
Okay.
Sounds pretty interesting.
What about this exercise we're doing now?
Yeah, the exercise.
Okay, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
There we go.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We've just been discussing, actually I'm going to pass it on as well. We've just been discussing that the Saki that was given to us before, and this group exercise is the fact that because we've heard the Saki before and we might see the two crows, it's our ego that's making us think, actually let's do Nam Simran, or let's do something just to make these crows change into the cranes, or to the swans, and to the humans. So really, it's the wrong way of doing it, because we think we're doing it. We've heard the Saki, so we knew the Saki. So we've got an explanation. We've got a motive. We're thinking we're going to change these, but obviously in that Saki, it wasn't that Guru Sikh that changed them into the human being. It was Guru Guruji at the end of the day. So we're going there with ego, thinking that we're going to change them because we know about the Saki. So it's our ego that's sort of that's doing it really, isn't it? So that's what we think. I think that's what it is. I think it's ego making us do something which we've got the wrong intentions in a way, because we want to change something because we know it can be done, but we can't do it ourselves. So yeah, it is man. So that's what we think is the exercise, but we could be wrong. But we've had a good chat about it anyway.
Probably wrong.
Hey, okay, pass it on. It's been passed on. It's just to
Imagine you were strolling in a state of spiritual reflection.
to give a bit of an answer on what.
Imagine how you approach the goals.
Yeah, please. No, we're fine. You had an answer. No. Oh no, these guys want to. Give us some more.
Yeah, no, you know what? I thought this very kind of last minute. What did you do?
Can I just say that Saki, what I believe in about this? Obviously, can I? वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा विच फतेह। ये साखी जड़ी है कि महाराज सवाल जरा ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਵਾਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਨਿੱਕੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਕਥਾ ਹੈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਮੇਰੋ ਮੇਰੋ ਆਖੀਏ ਕੈਸਾ ਮੇਰੋ ਹੋਏ ਜੋ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਵੰਦਾ ਵੈਸਾ ਹੋਏ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਤਨ ਦੇ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਮੈਲੇ ਰੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਮੇ ਧੋਈਏ ਜਦ ਮਨ ਮੈਲਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੈਸਾ ਧੋਈਏ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਜਵਾਨ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਖੇਡ ਗਵਾਈ ਮੋਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਨ ਕੇ ਜਦ ਬਿਰਧ ਅਵਸਥਾਨ ਵਸੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਕੈਸੇ ਭਗਤੀ ਹੋਏ ਇਹ ਲਿੰਗ ਗੋਡੇ ਨੇ ਨਿਉਂਦੇ ਕੈਸੇ ਸੀਸ ਨਵਾਈਏ ਮੂੰਹ ਕੀ ਇਹ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਕੰਨ ਵੀ ਬੋਲੇ ਹੋਏ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਛਮ ਛਮ ਰੁੰਦੇ ਨੀਰ ਇਹ ਜਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੰਨ ਹੁੰਦਿਆ ਮਨ ਚ ਹਨੇਰਾ ਕੈਸਾ ਹੋਏ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਐਸਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਾ ਕੀਜੀਏ ਹਰ ਦੀ ਭਗਤੀ ਮਨ ਚ ਲਈ ਵਸਾਏ ਇਹ ਮਨ ਦੀ ਮੈਲੀ ਧੋਈਏ ਕਬੀਰ ਜੀ ਐਸੇ ਰੰਗ ਰੰਗੀਏ ਕਦੀ ਨਾ ਨਿਖਰਨ ਹੋਏ ਹਨੇਰੀਆਂ ਤੂਫਾਨ ਹਨੇਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਮ ਦਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਾਨਣ ਹੋਏ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
So we're not really sat around tables. So it's a bit harder, but does anybody want to share what they discussed in relation to what was the exercise? So I know there's some discussions going on. Vaisab, do you want to share anything?
Okay, what we took away from this Saki, or what we think comes to us and finds a way. We were discussing that maybe we don't have enough of Yas, we don't have enough of the Kamai, obviously, to change them into swans or into cranes. And that actually gives us a lot of nimrata as well. The fact that they find a way shows that we're not at that level yet and that we need to do more. That's what we took away from it.
Okay. Anyone else?
We discussed that as well with them. We came to something else. We said that is it our ego that's because we know that Saki and our ego thinking that you know what is it we're going to sit here with an arm some of them or do some photography just to make those crows change to a crane and then a swan and a human being. So really it's our ego making us do that and it's not the outcome we're doing it for. Obviously, you don't do the norms and just to get something back from it. Really, essentially, it's being quite selfish. It's your ego driving it. So maybe it's your ego that wants it to happen. But the point is not to do that anyway, because you're not doing that. Your Guru's doing that. So you think sitting down thinking, I'm going to do this now because I feel the Saki. That's the reason why.
So it's doing it in Shkam, no? Don't without any wants for something back.
Can I just add? It's also what Maharaj gives as a button or hukam, because obviously the Guru Sikh had gotten button from Maharaj to go to the jungle do Simran. If we had that same button, we could probably do the same thing, but we haven't got that. And Maharaj just told us to go to South Sangat, That's how it's going to
go. Hanji, thank you. Hanji, anyone else? Anyone at the back? Groups? Any Benji from that corner? No, okay. All right. So there's a couple of examples here, well, say 10, about how you potentially could have thought about it. And I'm not saying that these are right. These are just potential thoughts you might have had. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you might reflect on that and you might think, well, that Saki and that event not happening to yourself, you might think, well, those kind of things might only happen at Guru's time. I know that those kind of things don't happen nowadays. That might be something that you might reflect upon. But you might think there's a different technique. Maybe I should be sitting at Amrita Vela and doing Vaheguru Simran, maybe that would yield better results. So there's a couple of things that you could have reflected on there. Again, there is no right or wrong answer. I think everyone has sort of different reflections on this, and I think that, like I said, they're all valid. So we're not going to spend time on that, but hopefully that sort of allowed us a bit of a break and a bit of time to reflect on what we were sort of contemplating on so far. So any questions or anything before we sort of move on? Okay. So we did an I in Sangat. So value of Sangat. So again, we're going to do through Sakya because that's the best way, really, and just, I find it quite interesting. So there's I think there's 2 or 3 Sakya here. What is the value of Sangat? Yeah. So there is a Sakhi of a Gurmukh who did a very honest living, and he wanted to get some bachan from Maharaj's, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj's time. And he said to Maharaj, he said, what do I need to do more? And said, look, you need to do more of this. And don't have lalach for Maya, do Path, do Simran, do Seva, Vand ke Shakar, all those things that we know that as Guru Sikhs we need to do. And he said, serve other Gurmukhs as well. That's really important. Because sometimes we think, we can just we should serve everyone, which is right as well. But then this Sakhi explains why it's particularly important to serve Gurmukhs. So hopefully we'll take away that from this Sakhi. And so this Bujurg, he was quite old actually, so he wasn't a young person anymore. He was sort of in his 70s, 80s, and he started doing all this. And slowly he started bringing in less money. He started spending more of his time on his own, and his wife started getting a bit annoyed. And actually wasn't of the same thinking. And she goes, look, you need to start doing a bit more work. And he'd say, look, no, this is the bachan of Maharaj. And he used to tell her to do Bart. And other people that don't want to do Bart and being told they should do Bart, they get annoyed even more. So he just carried on. And eventually she got more and more annoyed, and she goes, look, I'm leaving. The Bujurg put Mata, and she goes, I'm leaving, I'm going to my Peke. And she went back to her home, and he's thinking, well, actually, I don't want to say it, but if she's saying it herself, I'll let her go, because actually he wanted that. So now he's a bit free now. He can just earn whatever he wants, just as much as he eats. And he can do bhakti all night. And he feels quite free from this bandhan that he thought he had. And one day, so some time had passed, and one day he got a sneha, he got a message back from that Bind that his wife went back to say that he needs to return there quickly. It's an emergency, he needs to go back. And he's thinking, oh God, what's happened? But look, I'm old, it's middle of the night. What am I going to do? I can't go on my own. And so the Lumbardar, the leader of the Bind, he said, look, no one's going to go with you at this time, but there is a Gurmukh, there's a Gursikh of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, and we'll try him. We'll go to him and see if he's agreeable. And they went to him, his house, they knocked on his door, he opened, he was in the middle of bhakti anyway, so he was awake. And he goes, welcomed Lumbardar and said, what would you want at this time of night? And then he goes, look, this Sikh needs to go back to his Bind, and he needs to go immediately, he needs to leave now. And he's thinking, I don't know if I can help. And the Lumbardar said, look, you're going to get good blessings from this. He's a Sikh, and he's old, he needs you to carry his luggage. So the Gurmukh agreed, and they left in the middle of the night, and they got to sort of 2 kilometers into their journey. I think it was a total of 13 kilometers between the 2 Binds. And he's got his luggage on his head, he's carrying, and this Bujurg is walking with him on their way. 2 kilometers in, this Gurmukh sort of reminds himself that one of the way he wants to live is spend time only with people that either will do katha or he will do katha to them. So he's spending time in contemplation of Vaheguru. That was his sort of, when you make something, condition for yourself, I'm only going to do this, and to make yourself like maybe strict and red or whatever. So he just remembered this, and he's thinking, oh, we're not doing either, I need to go back. And this Bujurg's like, you can't leave me here, we're on the journey and I can't go, I need your help. And he goes, well, then he explained to the Sikh, he goes, look, I need either you to do katha to me, or like do some sakya, or you're going to have to listen to me. And the Bujurg said, look, I don't know any sakya, so let's go carry on in the journey and I'll listen to you. And so they went. all the way to the Bind. I think it's, you know, I think they explained it as all night it took them on foot to get to the Bind. And all that time they listened, the Sikh listened to the Gursikh, all the Gatha about Guru Maharaj, and they spent all that time in that way. And they arrived at this Sikh's house, and the Gursikh sat down, had prashada, and he looked at this Sikh and he thought, he's an old person. I've just had, you know, prashada at his house. He felt a bit in debt, and because when you, like for example, when we, you know, someone comes round, they bring a box of chocolates, and you know, you feel like you've got to give something back. It was a bit of that, or someone feeds you and you feel like you've got to return something. So he was quite a you know, spiritual person. This this Gurmukh that helped him, and he goes to this Sikh. He goes, "How old are you?" And he goes, "Well, I'm in my 80s." And he goes, "Look, you've only got about 8 days left before you leave for Bralok, you know, before you're going to pass away, die." And this Sikh's thinking, you know, wow, I've got 8 days left. And the Sikh goes to the Gurmukh, he goes, you know, so what do I need to do? He goes, there's nothing you can do. The Jamduts are going to come to you. You're going to be chained, tied up and taken to Dharmaraj. And all your likha is going to be read out, all the good deeds, bad deeds. And he's thinking, you know, towards the end of my life, I did some good stuff, but I spent most of my time, you know, not doing good deeds. You know, lived without Naam, Simran, Seva, and all the things we should be doing. So he's feeling pretty worried, this Bajurg, and this Gurmukh goes, look, you spent the whole night with me, and you listened to Sakya, you did a good deed. You spent your whole time in Satsangat in this night that you spent with me. That's now in your likha, that can't be erased, that's going to go with you. So when you get to Dharmaraj, and he's reading out your good deeds and your bad deeds, he'll give you a choice. He'll say to you, do you want the fall of your good deeds first, or do you want the fall of your bad deeds first? And he advised, this Gurmukh advised the Sikhs to say, have the fall of your good deeds first. So make sure you convince Dharmaraj that you're going to get the good, you want the good deeds first, and then you'll get your punishments afterward. And he said, okay. He goes, don't worry, I'm going to leave in 2 days. The Gurmukh said, I'm going to die in 2 days. I'll see you in Sachkhand, because I'll be there in 2 days. So, and just as this Gurmukh said, he passed, this Sikh passed away on the 8th day. Jamduts came, took him to Dharmaraj, and again, you know, just as he said, he was questioned and said, look, you've done nothing good, but you have done this, you spent this time in Satsangat, you're going to get a fall for this, we'll give you some time in Sachkhand. And he convinced Dharmaraj to get that fall, just as he was advised, to get it first before he gets his punishment. So the Jamduts take him to Sachkhand, but they can't come into Sachkhand, they had to wait at the door. And sure enough, he saw the Gursikh sitting in Sachkhand, and they saw each other, and the Gursikh called him over and said, come and sit down, sit next to me. And this Sikh's in Anandra is in Sachkhand, so he's sitting there and he couldn't be feeling any better, top of the world type stuff. I can't explain it, but you know, people that are there, they'll be able to. So he sits there, and after a while he's in Anand, but then he keeps looking back, this Sikh, and you could see the worry on his face, and this Gurmukh goes to him, that was sitting next to him, he goes, what's the problem, why do you keep looking back? And the Sikh goes, well, the Jamduts, I can still see them, and they're calling me back to go back to Dharmaraj, and my time's up, and now they're calling me now, I need to go. And the Gurmukh goes, well, if they could come and get you, don't you think they would have got you already? Job karke baithiya, you know, don't go back. So he did exactly that, and the Jamduts thinking, well, you know, this guy ain't coming back out. So they go back to Dharmaraj, and they say, look, we've lost him, you know, like as if the police lost one of their sort of, you know, people that are captured. And they go to Dharmaraj, they goes, look, if you give us Agya, we'll go into Sachkhand and we'll go and get him. And Dharmaraj goes, don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. not only will you get yourself killed, but be finishing me as well with you. And this is where this Pankti comes in. We read it in Rakhya da Shabad. And this Pankti, Maharaj puts it into Gurbani, and they say that the Jamduts recognize that they cannot come anywhere near where Naam is Vasta. You can't even come into Sachkhand. So that hopefully through that Sakhi we can realize that Gurmukh, that Sikh, that spending that time with that Gurmukh in Satsangat for all that time, all that little time I should say, look how he was saved. So, you know, sometimes we think when we hear, yeah, we should go to Gurdwara, we should do Satsangat, it's a good thing, we know we should do that. Sometimes we sort of miss the importance of it, and the real importance really comes out in these Sakhya. So, you know, we can't put a price on it. It's the coming in and spending time with Sadhs and sitting and contemplating on Vaheguru like they did all night. There's no value to it, because that saved that Sikh. The second Sakhi that I wanted to share was is in old times. It's about two very big Mahapurush, right, in Satyug. So in Satyug they used to live for, you know, for a very long time, not sort of you know, 80 years, 90 years, a very long time. And these Mahapurush, they met, and like we meet, and when we see someone after a long time, we want to take a gift. I talked about the box of chocolates, you know? So someone comes round, they brings a box of chocolate, and we want to, before they leave, we want to give one back because we want to like equal it. I know that's how the world sort of maryada that we sort of live in, and it's no different with these two saints. And these saints are thinking, what am I gonna? And their names were Vishwamitra and Vishisht Muni. And they come in Gurbani, and one of the Vishwamitra, he had 58,000 years of tapasya, and this is sort of tapasya back in Satyug, so they, you know, they got all of that sort of banked up, as you were. And he was thinking, well, I'm going to give the phal of my bhakti of all these years to Vishisht Muni. And Vishisht Muni is thinking, I've got this, you know, I've got this phal now, what am I going to return? And he's thinking, I've got 4 kadiya, I've got 4 kadiya of Satsangat. That's all I've got, but I'm gonna give it to Vishwamitra as as a gift. So he's thinking, Vishishmitra thinking, I've done something good. But Vishwamitra is thinking, like that box of chocolates. So say someone comes and gives us a box of Thornton's chocolates, 15, 20 quid, and we hand back a Sainsbury's own brand £2 box of chocolates. The person that's receiving that is going to maybe think he's being done hard by, you know? He's thinking, I've got a Thornton's and the other one's just got a Sainsbury's box. And it's a bit like that. And he's got a shanka in his mind that we haven't got any equal exchange. So what they do, they said, they was thinking, they just, put this out there and said, look, it came to increase the love, but actually, Shankar Begi, that there's actually, we've decreased the love. Let's go and get someone to tell us which is worth more. So they went to the 3 Devte, Brahma, Vishnu and Shivji, and all of them didn't really give them an answer. And in the end, they were advised to go to Sheshnag. Sheshnag was a being that was given a lot of phal for he did a lot of bhakti, and he was given the phal, or the board, as you can say, actually, the responsibility of actually spinning the earth. So in the time and keeping that all in balance, having that many days, keep that in balance. And they went to Sheshnag and said, help us out. No one else has been able to help us out. What's worth more? And Sheshnag says, look, someone with a bit of weight on their head can't speak. I've got a lot of weight on my head, so you're going to have to do something, hold the weight, and I'll give you the answer. And Vishwamitra goes and says, well, the only power I've got is all this 58,000 years of tapasya I've done, so I'm going to give you that. And what they do, he uses that power to try and hold the earth in balance, and he fails. it just goes out of balance, and Sheshnag is hand it back, you're not going to be able to sambal this. And then Vashish Muni is thinking, well, he hasn't managed, so what am I going to do? And Sheshnag said, look, you've got satsangat that you wanted to give to this Mahapurush, so why don't you try it with that? And he uses his 4 kadiyaan of satsangat to balance the earth, and he manages to keep it in a complete equilibrium, just like Sheshnag did. And he said, look, I'm holding the earth now, can you tell us the answer? That's what you wanted, wasn't it? Because Sheshnag says, you've got the answer. You're using your power that you gained, or your fal you gained from having 4 kadiyaan of satsangat, and that's keeping everything in equilibrium. So the answer came through that. So I thought that was quite a good sakhi, although maybe not sort of gurus related, but it makes the point that actually, doing satsangat has a lot of value. So Maharaj, there's another sakhi I want to share, is at the times of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj, and sometimes we might reflect and say, do we get more fal out of doing bhakti or Naam Simran sitting at home than maybe if we come into the Gurugar and do bhakti there, Naam Simran there? And Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj was asked this same question, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj gave an example of a tree that is rooted near a riverbank, and they said this tree will remain harapara, as in it will stay green because it's, the roots are already in the water and we don't need rainfall, so it'll flourish. But they said, like this tree, as soon as a storm comes across, that tree will go into the banks quite easily because it's on the edge of it, isn't it? So a storm comes, the tree will go in and it will drown and die. And Maharaj said that that tree, or we are like that tree when we're doing bhakti at home. So we'll do bhakti, and we'll get fal out of it, because Maharaj says doing Naam Simran, regardless, you'll get a fal out of it. But doing it in Satsangat, doing it in Sad Sangat, that storm won't be able to impact you, because that storm is home. So it's like when you're at home, what happens is, or what might happen is that you'll start thinking, look what time I get up in the morning. I might get up at 4 o'clock, and I might be the first one in the house to get up, and I might be, maybe in Sukham Roop, maybe not even in an obvious way, you start getting a bit egotistical about getting up so early in the morning, and you might spend 2 hours doing part, or you might spend 3, or you might spend 20, whatever it is, you might start getting that hormone, because you're at home, you're doing it, you're by yourself, you can't compare yourself to anything. But when you go into Sad Sangat, you'll very quickly realise that there are many sadhs that are doing bhakti for longer, are getting up earlier. You go to Park Avenue in Southall, you got 3 o'clock, and there are gurmukhs there that have clearly done all their Naam Simran and Nitnem. I don't know what time they've got up, and it's a real perspective when you go there and go into the Gurdwara and you think you're nothing, really nothing. And there's also, we talked about, with Benji, we're talking about, people in Barna. We get this image that people in Barna do all this Bart and Simran, and they probably might do. But actually, it's not just those individuals. When you go into the Gurdwara at that time in the morning, you see the Gurmukhs that are present at that time. The great Gurmukhs that are present at that time. They're not just all in Barna. So Maharaj is saying, yes, you'll get fal from doing bhakti at home, but the fal you'll get and the way you'll be protected in Satsangat is you can't compare it, because that horme won't come into you. How are we doing for time? All right. This is the last slide. How can we get Satsangat? So we can do lots of things, can't we? We can do Geetan, we can go to Santhya, do Santhya, we can go into the Gurugar, many ways, but you could say potentially one of the biggest ways is to do Ardas. And we do Ardas every day in this Bhakti, which says, Sei pyare mel jina milya tera naam chit aave. But just focusing on that when you when you read that, you know, really focusing and really wanting that Sadh Sangat is really important. Maharaj says, whenever you want something, just do ardas, and I do it with Prem, and Maharaj will, you know, will answer it. So that comes to the end of the presentation. Is there anything that anybody wants to share, any sakya or any thoughts that we've discussed today before we finish? Okay, so I just want to say thank you for your time and sitting here and listening and sort of giving us your company in your Sangat. I want to apologise for any of the mistakes. I no doubt will have made mistakes as I went through the presentation. Please forgive me and help me sort of learn and improve for next time. So, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru